My name is Edward Ebenezer Jeremiah Brown. I'm a football supporter of Ipswich Town. Wherever they play, you'll find me. I haven't missed a game since I was 3. With me scarf and me rattle and a big rosette, singing where was the goalie when the ball was in the net. Follow the town, up or down. I'm Edward Ebenezer Jeremiah Brown, but everybody call me Ted.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of We Follow the Town, the first episode of a new season. And to open it up, we are going to be doing a European Championship special. There'll be plenty to talk about, and of course there'll be plenty of Ipswich talk along the way as well. But before we get on to today's show, and before I introduce our wonderful guest, I just want to mention our sponsor. Julian Hughes is a golf coach at Old Joe's Golf and is a member of the World Golf Teachers Federation. So whether you're just starting out on your golfing journey or you already know how to play, Julian can help you improve your game. So what are you waiting for? Book lessons through Old Joe's or directly through Julian Hughes at 07392 834 199. I'll read it out again. 07392 834 199, and that's the first time I haven't messed up on the phone number, so great start. But anyway, David, how are you? And first of all, give us your thoughts on the European Championships so far. Have there been any countries that have surprised you along the way?
It's been a really good tournament so far. I think I kind of went into it thinking it might be a bit of a poor season hangover kind of tournament, but the quality of the games has been really good. Been really surprised by Italy. I think a lot of people had them as dark horse for the tournament. I think after the first couple of games, performances they put in, they're looking really strong. Belgium have looked good as normal. They struggled first half today against Denmark, but yeah, second half they showed their qualities. But I think it's the usual suspects so far, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's talk about Italy a minute, because it's interesting you bring them up. Roberto Mancini is generally a manager who has a good standing in the game, although he never generally gets the recognition that he deserves. Do you think Italy could be the dark horses to maybe win the tournament?
Yeah, I'd say so. Just going back to your point, Mancini is a very underrated manager. I think Manchester City fans will remember his work very well. I think he's laid the foundations for what we're seeing now in terms of what Guardiola's doing there. But he's taken what was a bang average Italy side that didn't even qualify for the World Cup in 2018, and he's turned them into what potential like one of the first 3 favourites, I'd say, for this tournament. They're in the easier half of the draw. They're going to manage to avoid that group of death of Group F and England and whatnot to the latter stage. I think Italy are really well placed in this tournament.
So Bonucci and Chiellini, they both have the combined age of 71, and they're, of course, their centre-backs, and they're probably going to be a consistent pair throughout the tournament should Chiellini still be fit. But what do you make of those two players? Because they're quite old. They're both 36 and 37. Do you reckon they're the best centre-back pairing in the tournament?
They're definitely up there, aren't they? I think when it comes to Italy, they've always been renowned for a strong defence, and they never usually have the youngest of squads, do they? And I think with centre-backs, I think you can kind of get away with not being as quick as long as your positioning's spot on. And Chiellini and Bonucci are fantastic defenders. The positioning's always spot on. And I think that's why you rarely see them get caught out pace-wise, because the positioning's that good.
So good evening to Ryan Wazza, and good evening to everybody in the chat. Feel free to get involved in the show, ask your questions in the chat, and we will get to them. But let's quickly divert away from the European Championships, because I know this is a European Championship special, but let's quickly talk about Ipswich Town, as this is an Ipswich Town podcast. We have signed 2 players, Lee Evans and Wes Burns. Lee Evans used to play for Wigan, and Wes Burns used to play for Fleetwood. First of all, what do you make of those 2 signings? Should we be excited about those 2 players coming to the club?
I think the Wes Burns sign was the one when I saw it announced was the one I was really made me take note of Ipswich and their intentions this early into the summer window. Been consistently one of Fleetwood's best players for quite a while now, and I think it was only a matter of time till he moved on to a bigger club, and he's got that move now to Ipswich. Lee Evans, again, another standout player for Wigan. Mark, who also works on Over the Bar, has been a massive Wigan fan. I think he was quite disappointed as well in losing him. So, yeah, you've gained 2 cracking players there for League One level.
So Wes Burns, to be fair, I don't know much about him. I haven't really looked into his career. But what was he like at Fleetwood Town? He made 144 appearances for them, scored 16 goals. Was he a well-loved player at Fleetwood?
Yeah, so from social media, talking to a couple of Fleetwood fans I've had interactions with, he's been consistently one of their better players for the last few years. And from, again, speaking to some of them Fleetwood fans, they're really going to miss him and it's going to leave a big hole on downside the pitch for them. And I think they'll definitely feel that impact of losing Burns come August.
How about Evans, though? Because Evans played for Wigan. He was a fantastic player there. He was also a regular a few years ago for Wolves. Is he a player who could change our midfield? Because we haven't really had any good midfield players in the last couple of years, apart from Flynn Downs.
Yeah, he's very dynamic, Evans. I think he will make a massive difference, especially if it's a position you guys have struggled with, like since you come down to League One. Very experienced at this level with Wigan. Obviously, proven he can do it at a high level with Wolves. So he's definitely going to bring a lot of quality to the middle of the park, which is something you've been lacking in League One so far, isn't it?
Now, finally, before we do get onto the European Championships, have there been any signings in League One that have surprised you? And are there any players that we should maybe keep an eye out on?
I think it's a bit early in the window still, isn't it? There's nothing. I think you guys have probably made the best 2 signings so far from memory. But yeah, we're still mid-June out, so I think there's a lot of deals to be done, and say a lot of players to leave their respective clubs as well when the 1st of July hits. So still very early days, but I think Ipswich are the ones who should be very happy with the early business they've done so far.
Now, finally, let's get on with the rest of the show because we have plenty to talk about. Of course, the European Championships are going on at the moment. Let's talk you through today's games, though. These are the games that have gone on today. Denmark 1, Belgium 2. And in Group C, Ukraine 2, North Macedonia 1. And at the moment, the Netherlands, as we are recording, are playing Austria. But Denmark, many people expected them to maybe do well in the tournament. They have, of course, had, bad luck with Christian Eriksen, and unfortunately that is a tragic part of their tournament so far. It's difficult to really put this into words, and this is a difficult thing to really talk about. But with Denmark, are they just unfortunate to be where they are at the moment? Yeah,
I think obviously when the incident happened on Saturday, coming back out to play the rest of that game as early as he did, I know at the time it came out and said that both sets of players agreed to it, and Peter Schmeichel's come out and said since Nancy that UEFA kind of strong-armed that decision, and under the circumstance, I think that's completely wrong. And you could see the Denmark players only be on that pitch on Saturday evening, and ultimately they lost the game. Today, again, I think it was very unfortunate. First half, they were absolutely incredible against Belgium. Should have been 2-3-0 by half-time. I made a comment at half-time. I did not see them being able to keep up that level of intensity for the second half, and I think it was more a case of their heart and spirit carrying them through the second half and wanting to do it for Eriksen. But by the end of it, you could tell a lot of that the players put so much into that game. They were out on the feet, really.
Now, of course, this is an incredibly difficult thing to talk about. So, whenever I talk about things like this, I do tend to stumble over my words because as football fans, we don't expect to see things like this. We don't expect to see talented and loved players go through such, traumas. But with Denmark, do you think it was harsh of UEFA to maybe force them to play? Because both the manager and Kasper Schmeichel came out, as you just said, and said that they were more or less forced to carry on and finish the second half. So do you reckon that UEFA maybe went a step too far?
Yeah, definitely. Like today, obviously Thursday, the incident happened on Saturday, so 5 days in between. There was no need to have given them a deadline of Sunday afternoon to play that game. And there'd have been no issue bringing them back Monday, Tuesday. Went well. Obviously, with the Belgium game yesterday probably wasn't the best time, but I'm sure Denmark and Finland would have rather have come back a couple of days later rather than coming back within a 24-hour period to have to endure something like that. really difficult to watch. Even when they came back out to the pitch, you could tell nobody wanted to be there.
So how fantastic was it, though, to see both Belgium and Denmark come together during the 10th minute of the game earlier today and give Christian Eriksen a round of applause? Isn't that what football's all about?
Yeah, it was great to see, weren't it? And I think seeing football fans unite like that, obviously we've got more in common than we do, obviously not in common, and it was really nice to see him. Even seeing Belgian fans in the crowd with Belgian flags saying, "Get well soon, Christian, we love you, Christian." It's really nice to see, and like I said, it's just nice when football fans come together with something in common as opposed to being at each other's throats, shouting abuse at each other. It was really nice to see.
And of course, we both wish Christian Eriksen the very best, and we both wish him a very swift recovery. But let's talk about Belgium, because they're a mixed team, really. De Boer, their manager, he's a decent manager, though he's arguably only gotten them playing average football. They did beat Denmark 2-1. It wasn't a thrashing that many people would have expected. De Bruyne and Hazard did come onto the pitch and they did change the game. But with Belgium, do you see them as maybe tournament favourites? Because again, with their manager, they're arguably very underachieving. And by the way, it isn't De Boer who is their manager. Mistakes, apologies for that. It is the former Wigan manager Roberto Martinez. So do you kind of see Belgium as kind of like a team underachieving almost?
I think they are still a quality team. They're ranked number 1 in the world for a reason, aren't they? And they are a very solid team. I think the issue with Belgium is there's a few teams that are guilty of it. England, very similar. Very good going forward, strong team sheet when you look at the attacking side of it. Maybe not so much at the back. Thibaut Courtois, fantastic keeper, but Alderweireld's probably past his best with Tongan. Like Thomas Vermaelen is still getting games, and these long passes sell by date. So I think that's the big issue with Belgium is they'll go score 3 or 4 goals, but they're always likely to concede as well, just because of the lack of pace at the back, and it's a very aging back line.
So they have players like Jason Denayer. Jason Denayer used to play for Man City, also played for Galatasaray and OGC Nice. But these aren't, and with all due respect to them, world-class players. Do you reckon that maybe the defence is Belgium's weak points?
Yeah, 100%. All you've got to do is compare the attack to defence. If you look at that forward line, Eden Hazard, Mertens, Lukaku, De Bruyne, Carrasco, just to name a few. And then you look at backline. Jason Denayer couldn't even get anywhere near that City team when there was an abundance of defenders out, unavailable, suspended, injured, what have you. He couldn't even get near the team then. So I think that says everything about Denayer. He's looked decent for Lyon. The last time I saw him before the European Championships was when he had an absolute masterclass against City in the Champions League last season. But apart from that, I don't really rate him as a top-class defender anyway.
So, of course, it's still early days in the tournament, but which player should we maybe look out for at Belgium? Because they do have some world-class players. A lot of them are coming back from injury, though, such as Hazard and De Bruyne. So which players or player should we maybe look out for?
I think the big one for Belgium is Lukaku, who's their record scorer now. He's obviously going to continue to extend that record. Obviously, De Bruyne... the class speaks for itself. Hazard's slowly getting back to fitness. So I think a big player for Belgium, which always goes under the radar, is Axel Witsel. I think he'll be quite key. He's not really played much since January, and he did his Achilles in playing for Dortmund, but he's back fit now. Got a few valuable minutes in tonight against Denmark, and I think if they can keep him fit for the rest of the tour, I think he could be a big player for Belgium going forward.
And elsewhere in the tournament, Denmark versus Belgium, by the way, was Group B. In Group C, Ukraine played North Macedonia. Ukraine beat North Macedonia. That was to be expected. But Ukraine, they're a weird team to look at, really, because they've got some very good players in their team, yet they've also got a very aging squad as well. They have players such as Stepanchenko, who's about 35 years old. He plays for Shakhtar Donetsk. Ukraine, can you maybe see them surprising a few pundits in the tournament, or do you just see them as easy hitters, if you like?
So we did a prediction show a couple of weeks ago, and I predicted Ukraine to get out of the group. They've won their group in qualification, look really strong. I thought they were really unfortunate to lose against Holland, especially after that comeback in the second half. And there was a bit of a defensive error that led to Holland getting the win there. It's a very tight group. I can see Ukraine either getting that second spot or getting through to the last 16 on those best place, third place finishes.
So Yarmolenko, he has scored in both of Ukraine's games so far. He hasn't really played that much at West Ham. He has had his injury woes. But can you maybe see him being maybe one of the surprising players of the tournament?
Yeah, I think it's evident when you watched Ukraine's opening 2 games, they're quite reliant on Yarmolenko. There is quality there, and like you said, been very unfortunate with injuries this season for West Ham, but there is a quality player there. He's had a very good career, and yeah, I think he's one of those players. If Ukraine are going to have a successful tournament, Yarmolenko will be pivotal for their hopes of getting through.
And now let's talk about North Macedonia. There's only one player that fans may recognise, Alioski. He plays for Leeds United. But they have got some decent players in there as well. They have a winner, a League 1 winner with Lille in, I can't pronounce his name, however you pronounce his name, somebody correct me in the comments. But they have got some great players in their team. That's basically what I'm saying. So with North Macedonia, they're not going to go through to the knockouts. But can they be proud with how they've done so far?
Yeah, 100%. It was a miracle for them to even get to the European Championships. But I think with this extended format of 24 teams, I think in the last tournament we had Albania, didn't we? And they didn't disgrace themselves. Not Macedonia have been competitive in their games, and it's been good to see. I think the only issue is I think they've been quite reliant on Gregor Pandev for quite some time now, and he's coming to this tournament 37 years of age. It's a bit of a funny setup that they've got Elif Ilmaz up front from playing off him from Napoli. So it's a very mixture of the old and the young in their forward line.
So the player that you just mentioned, Pandev, he was the player that I meant. Apologies for that. He is, of course, 37 years old. He is North Macedonia's youngest ever goal scorer, also their oldest. Tell me about his quality there, because, again, he's a fantastic player for them. Can you maybe see them, I don't know, relying on him for a couple of more years? Because he does seem like a player who never really tires out, despite his age.
It's one of those, when you hit 37 years of age, when the World Cup, I know they beat Germany in the World Cup qualifiers, but it's going to be a big ask to qualify for Qatar 2022. And then when the next European Championship rolls around, it's going to be hitting 40 then, isn't it? So I don't see Pandev being the future of Macedonia football. I think they need to look more at building the team around Elmas moving forward. Definitely the most quality player they've got after Pandev. So I think Elmas is the one that they're going to use to replace Pandev moving forward.
Yeah, so they're not going to be building a team around their youngest ever goal scorer, 37-year-old Pandev. But Reece Curtis, just to qualify for North Macedonia, is a big achievement. Just an update in the Netherlands-Austria game. Memphis Depay has scored a penalty. Let's quickly talk about the Netherlands, because, of course, they're playing at the moment. How do you see them faring in this tournament? Because they failed to qualify for the World Cup and the previous European Championships. So could they maybe surprise a few punters despite not having Virgil van Dijk in their side?
It's probably the weakest Dutch team I've seen qualify for a tournament in my lifetime anyway. So I remember the 98 World Cup where it was just littered with stars in the early 2000s. I think they've probably peaked when they got to that World Cup finals in 2012. I don't think they've been anywhere near being competitive since. Just got to look at the squads. A few standout players, obviously. Van Dijk's a big miss, but they've still got Stekelenburg in there, I know goalkeepers tend to go on a bit longer, but yeah, it's still a position for them that they need to sort out.
He's 38 as well, so
yeah, it's a tournament for the older players, isn't it? But look at the midfield strong. Wijnaldum, I think he's just turned 30, 31. Very, very good player. De Jong as well, very strong player. Obviously, you don't get to play for Barcelona at that age, and if you're not a good player. The forward line, Depay, solid player. I don't think he's world-class level to what Holland have had in the past. So yeah, for me, it's an average Netherlands team. I don't see them getting beyond the quarterfinals personally.
So Weghorst plays up front for them. Weghorst plays for Wolfsburg. By the way, do you maybe see their attacking line as their weakness? Because they haven't really got any real quality up front apart from Memphis Depay. So is that something that maybe you would want to develop as their manager? Bring in a few youngsters to play up front and ultimately build from there?
Yeah, I think when you, no disrespect to the player I'm about to mention, but Luke de Jong, very solid players. He's another one who's advancing in years, but when he's still knocking around the team, I think that kind of sums up your attack. We've all seen Memphis Depay playing in England with Manchester United. Very disappointing this spell there. Did well at Lyon, but again, he's not that huge name that Holland have had in the past. When you look at the players they've had leading the line, like Johan Cruyff, Van Basten, Bergkamps, just to name a couple, and then Memphis Depay is nowhere near that level that Holland needs to be able to go far into tournaments, to me anyway.
So Austria, they're a decent team as well. I'm not going to try and pronounce any of the names, as I've already slaughtered quite a few on the show, but a few that I can pronounce: David Alaba and Dragovic. They have got a good defence. But with Austria, can you maybe see them doing well in this tournament? Because they won their opening game. They did fairly well in that game, obviously. So can you maybe see them surprising a few people and maybe getting through to the knockouts?
Yeah, I think they'll be one of those. They'll definitely either get second or they'll get one of them best place third finishes. But I don't see them going much further beyond that. When I saw them against England in the friendly, I know it was only a friendly a couple of weeks ago, but it's a team not. David Alaba's their best player by an absolute country mile. Arnautovic, on his day, quality player, but he's going to be missing for the next group game after his ban. But apart from that, and Sabitzer, another player, sorry, that I forgot to mention. But apart from that, it's not a hugely talented squad for me personally.
And I think that more or less wraps up today's actions. Apologies to the players whose names I've slaughtered. I'm no linguist at all. But let's talk about England's game against Scotland tomorrow, because that is a huge game. I don't think we've played Scotland in an international tournament in years. Scotland, though, are going to want to get a result against England. They lost their opening game against the Czech Republic, and they're going to go to England wanting a win, wanting to prove people wrong. So could this maybe be our toughest game of the group stages?
Yeah, I think if you wanted to handpick where you had this tie in the group, I'd rather have played Scotland last. So if you'd have played them first game of the tournament, and they'd been massively up for it. Tomorrow, even if they'd have come into it on the back of a win, they'd run that crest of a wave. Tomorrow they come into it with nothing to lose. They've got to get a result to stand a chance of going through. So it's a very dangerous time to be playing Scotland. In terms of the quality, I'm not really expecting quality from Scotland, but I'm going to expect a performance full of battle and grit from them anyway.
So Scotland manager Steve Clarke has said that Kieran Tierney is fit and available for Scotland's seismic Euro 2020 match with England at Wembley. If you were Steve Clarke, would you put Kieran Tierney in the team, despite the fact that he isn't necessarily fit and he might not necessarily have the match sharpness to maybe see out the entire game?
Yeah, I think they'd be daft not to play Kieran Tierney personally. I think he's one of their standout players, along with Andrew Robertson. Again, I think apart from that, it's a very average Scotland side, but Scott McTominay as well, I need to mention there. But yeah, I think to have a chance, I think they need to have their best 11 on the pitch, and Tierney is one of those best 11, so they need to get him out there.
So with England, Harry Maguire is returning to the game and could feature against Scotland. Apologies for my screen, by the way. I'm going to fix it in a minute. But just quickly, with Harry Maguire, would you maybe put him off the bench tomorrow just to play a few minutes? Because should we advance to the knockout stages, he could be a very important player for us, couldn't he?
Yeah, when I saw that he declared himself fit, I was in two minds whether it was right to play him, whether he should start, come off the bench. It is a bit of a tough one. I'm not saying that trying to be disrespectful to Scotland, but this is a game that we should be winning if we are wanting to go on to win the tournament. So I think if Harry Maguire's saying he's fit, I probably would start him off the bench and bring him on a little bit later on. But yeah, he's definitely going to be pivotal to our chances moving forward.
Apologies about the technical difficulties just then. But yeah, England again is going to be a really tough game tomorrow. How would you set up though if you were Gareth Southgate? Because as I just alluded to, this could be one of the toughest games of the group stages. So would you maybe just go and attack Scotland from the off? Or would you maybe sit back and invite Scotland onto you?
I'm not a fan of. I think the best way to put it, I'm not a fan of adapting to your opponent. I think England have got a strong enough squad where they should be taking the game to Scotland. I was really impressed against Croatia on Sunday. Sit the same formation, 4-2-3-1. I would like to see Grealish get a start in this one. I think it's about time Grealish was unleashing this England squad. And I think there's plenty of talent in there. Phil Foden needs to continue playing. Sterling had a decent game. I'd keep him in there. But yeah, I think we need to be taking the game to Scotland. I'm not a fan of having teams come at us and try and hit them on the counter when we're the stronger team.
So why wasn't Grealish played in the opening game? Because he is arguably one of our best midfield players. Do you reckon Gareth Southgate doesn't fancy him? Or is he just maybe resting him to unleash him onto Scotland?
I think it's a bit of both, really. I think it's quite evident with Gareth Southgate, he's very loyal to players that have done well for him in the past. And Raheem Sterling, I know he's got his critics, but he's never let England down, really. He always puts in a shift. He's got an incredible goal-scoring record over the last couple of seasons for England. And it worked his best performance on Sunday, but he got the goal, put a shift in. I think that's all Gareth Southgate wanted from him on Sunday, and hopefully that goal will do him the world of good. In terms of Grealish, I think it's one of those, not protecting him, but you've got to bear in mind he was coming to the end of the season with a bit of a niggling injury. He's slowly getting back to fitness, but yeah, I think we'll see a lot more Jack Grealish over the coming games.
So just quickly, before we get on to more England stuff, who would you pick for the England team tomorrow, and who would you have start?
I think the only change I'd possibly make is I might, if Gareth Southgate wanted to go a bit more attacking, is probably play Grealish ahead of Mount. Apart from that, I'd probably stick with the same 11. The only other change I could probably think of is playing an actual left back at left back, as opposed to shoehorning Kieran Trippier into a position that's not naturally his own.
Okay, so should England win tomorrow, we will be through to the knockout rounds. But if we finished first, then we'll play the likes of Portugal, Germany, and France. So if we finished second, we would play considerably weaker teams. So where would you rather finish, first or second? And I know that may be a difficult question, because if we finish first, then we will play a few of the knockouts at Wembley. Whereas if we finished second, we wouldn't necessarily be playing at Wembley. We'd be playing one of the knockout games in Rome.
I've always been the believer of, if you want to win these tournaments, you're going to have to beat the best at some point. And I think, I don't want to say like planning to finish second's the right way to go, but at some point, we're going to have to beat the likes of Portugal or France to win that tournament. And being able to play one of those teams at Wembley is a massive advantage for us. So I'd rather win the group, get through, play at Wembley and play one of them teams then. And playing a game like that and possibly winning it will stand us in good stead for the latter rounds if we were to get through.
And of course, if you are in the chat, get involved and ask your questions. If there are any, we'll get to them in a minute. But how far can you see England getting in this tournament? Because people are very, torn on Gareth Southgate. Some people think he's a fantastic manager, whereas others don't necessarily rate him. But surely this is an England team who should probably go far in this tournament.
Yeah, I think we're just quite unfortunate with the draw, really. I'd be a lot more, say we had Holland's side of the draw or we were in Italy's group, I'd be a lot more optimistic, but we are in the tougher half of the draw, whichever route we go. I try not to get too carried away with England, so it always just sets us up for disappointment, doesn't it? But if we can get through this the group stage, win the group, and then if we get through that last 16 tie, it's going to be France or Portugal. After seeing what I saw the other day in that Group F, I don't see Germany getting through. So it'll be either France or Portugal. If we can see one of those two off, I massively fancy our chances. But it's going to be a big ask anyway.
So is this tournament crucial to Gareth Southgate's career as England manager, because should he lose or not do well in this tournament, then this will be another tournament that we haven't won. So do you reckon that this tournament is almost like a must-win for Gareth Southgate, or do you maybe see semis as the bare minimum for England?
No, I wouldn't see this as the be-all and end-all for Gareth Southgate. I think, given the squad we've got, it's still a very young squad. And then even if we were to fail epically in this tournament, we've got the World Cup in about 18 months, because it's going to be in November into next year due to the temps in Qatar. So we've got the World Cup next year. I think Gareth Southgate will have until that tournament. I think expectations will be a lot higher going into 2022. So I think he's probably, I don't say got a free hit in this tournament, but I can ultimately see him, regardless of what we do, having until the end of that World Cup in 2022, and then we'll see how things are from there, I reckon.
And just finally, to wrap up the show, who do you see winning this tournament? Because we have a number of teams who could go on to win this. Portugal, France, even the likes of Spain, who are doing well so far, even Italy. So who do you see winning this tournament?
So it's a tough one to answer. It's probably one of the most open tournaments I can remember in the last decade or so. So my pre-tournament predictions for Portugal, I'm going to stick with Portugal, but I think Italy is my second pick. I'm going to go with Portugal, and then my second pick, Italy.
And of course, thank you very much to those in the comments who have gotten involved. And thank you to those who have tuned in. Just a quick schedule update for We Follow the Town. This is, of course, the first episode of the season. I'm going to try and stream at least once a week. So join me next Thursday when I do another show like this, have a few more guests on. It should be decent. And in regards to the interview that we announced on Twitter, we've got some news coming up. There has been a slight change of date. Though once it does get confirmed, we will, of course, get it out there, confirm that the interview will be going ahead. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. But David, where can people find you and Over the Bar on social media?
Yeah, so we've got plenty of avenues to follow. So we've got the Twitter page at Over the Bar FB. We've also got the website, which is where all our written content is, at otbfootball.net. And we've also got the YouTube channel, so you can either search for Over the Bar Football Blog, or the URL is youtube.com/overthebarfb. So we've got plenty of Euros content, League One, going to be League Two content next year, and Bundesliga content regular as well.
And of course, you can find us on Twitter at We Follow the Town, and me on Twitter at Ben Aurier. They don't bother trying to spell my surname, as it's pretty difficult to spell. But anyway, just a quick mention of our sponsors. Julian Hughes is a golf coach, and he teaches at Old Joe's Golf. If you want golf lessons, you can contact him at julesHughes1965@gmail.com or at 07382 834 199. And I'm afraid that is all for today. Thank you very much for joining in. And as for next time, keep following the town.